about the high street. You know, I used to have fond memories, Aaron, of, you know, you used to go what we would call down road or up road, and it would be bustling. There'd be absolutely everything that you'd wanted to get your hands on, whether it was a butcher, whether it was a clothes shop, anything, hairdressers, anything. Those days, for many, now seem to have long gone. The Labour Party have released their 5-point plan back for the high streets. They're going to do lots of different stuff. Apparently, they're going to tinker with business rates. They're going to tackle antisocial behaviour. You know, what's your thoughts on this?
I think it's really
gone too far. I'm putting the 5 points, by the way, on the screen now in case you're not.
That's great. No, I think it's really positive. And the good thing is, lots of it won't cost very much. So, for instance, stamp out late payments, we all like that. Antisocial behaviour, that will cost some money. That's, of course, more police. The banking hubs thing, I think that's quite hard to execute. Replacing business rates is key. They want to change the emphasis, really, from taxing live businesses to taxing the building and the owner. And maybe they will do this, I would introduce a tax for vacant buildings after 3 months. So you're disincentivising leaving a building empty or getting your tenants out. You know, rather than rushing people out and not knowing who's going to replace them, you want to plan, otherwise you'll be paying X amount of money per month. Maybe after 3 months you might want to leave it vacant because you need to paint it and decorate it, but I think it shouldn't be abandoned for too long. So I think some of those changes are good. The document itself is rather strange. So the Conservatives apparently are responsible for 3,700 fewer fruit and veg shops, butchers and newsagents. I love a good newsagent, but I don't, and I love to pin things on the Tories. I don't think that's on the Tories. That's, of course, a change in consumption habits. There are some places, and when people say the internet, it annoys me because there are some high streets in this country which are doing really well. They're really fabulous places to hang out. And there are others which are not. It tends to be about how close you are to London, how wealthy you are. If you're a smaller town and you know in London, you know, I don't need to tell your audience, it's looking bleak. So you look at Winchester, it's got 2 Waterstones bookstores. You go further west to Poole, similar size, still quite affluent, no Waterstones. The point is, it's not that close to London, the commuters don't live there. So we need a plan for our high streets. I think it's a start. I think it's relatively sensible. It's not going to cost that much money. You know, you had the response from the Tories, which was from Bir Mafalami, Treasury Minister. Only Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives have a plan which is working. Walk down a high street and tell me it's working. You might not like Labour, but, you know, the status quo is awful.
GBNews member Nigel, he's got in touch on the website. He's got a very simple plan. I think it could be quite effective, actually, Nigel. He says it's simple. Make parking free. You will see the shoppers flooding back. That's not a bad idea, actually. Kelvin?
That is a much better idea than any of the ideas I saw put forward by Labour. The only one I vaguely agreed with, or totally agreed with, is the fact that we're going to pursue, under their plan, shoplifters for less than the £200 which exists right now. Now, that is correct. That involves more police officers, many more police officers, and on that basis, therefore, somebody's got to pay for it, and I'm told that taxes are not going to go up under Labour, so I'd like to know how this is going to be achieved. The rest of it is what people want. Look, if you want to get I don't know, some toothpaste or something, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can go down to the supermarket, or bizarrely, as I discovered in my own household, you just contact Amazon, or you just write Amazon, and they will deliver within 24 hours 1 tube of toothpaste. When you've got that kind of facility, that is the reason people don't shop in the high street anymore. However, what has happened in my high street, in Weybridge High Street, which is pretty bustling right now, and actually has gone up market in the time that I've been there, which is normally the reverse of what happens when I turn up anywhere, right, is what's happened there is that there are 11 coffee shops within 250 yards, including the arrival now of the imprimatur of the middle classes. Gales has now turned up, and there was literally a queue out the door on Sunday morning to Gales at 9:45. So, look, leave the high street. However, where I do agree with that guy there, whoever that is,
Nigel,
is unless you have parking, high streets are not going to be saved. Right? And it's going to have to be parking which people can afford. Round my way, they've just announced, or they've just introduced, car parking at the station, £11.10, plus Ringo at 42 pence. My God, You know, people have to go to work. People have to shop. It is wholly wrong.
Well,
so free parking is a very good idea. If the space is there, is the space there?
Well, Les on the GBNews website says, Michelle, it's no wonder the high streets are doomed. Local councils have taxed retailers out of business.
Hear, hear.
The higher parking charges and now these clean air zones forcing us all basically to go onto public transport. He says, I must confess, he goes to out-of-town shopping places now instead of the high street. And I think that's such a shame. I'll tell you what you do see a lot of on the high street, and that is rough sleepers. I've got to say the government are in trouble. When are they not, actually, quite frankly? But there's this whole notion about whether or not rough sleeping should actually be made more of a criminal offence, Aaron. The Tories, you know, Suello, for example, I'm sure it was Suello, she was talking tough about tents and whether or not tents would be allowed on the streets. And now there's kind of conversations within the criminal justice bill about whether or not it should be criminalised, rough sleeping. Do you think it should?
I think they've got this debate the completely wrong way around. It's upside down. Why are people homeless? Why are they rough sleeping? That should be the first question, not how do we criminalise them. Generally speaking, it's because of substance abuse issues. It may be, and this was on your tweet, I don't want to steal something you're about to say, you were saying the kinds of people that are rough sleeping you saw earlier on today.
I'll tell you about that in a second.
Yeah, people can fall on hard times perhaps because of the way that benefits have changed in the last 10 years. It's much more punitive now, so you might have to wait for 6 weeks, 8 weeks before you actually get that universal credit payment. People can't not have money for 2 months, so that creates a problem too. That's many, many people, not everyone, people who have been through the child protection system and been failed, frankly, by their parents as well. That would be the first question for me. Look, we're always going to have some homelessness. I accept that. The point is, can we minimise it? I think we can absolutely reduce it through a mix of measures. And I think it speaks volumes that the Conservatives' approach is, how do we criminalise it? Look, if you're down on your luck, you have a substance abuse issue, you're literally sleeping in the cold every night, you're not going to be worried about a prison cell. If anything, that's an upgrade. But like I say, that's the Conservatives for the last 14 years, frankly.
Kelvin?
Well, parts of London are shocking, and I find it offensive. I know I should care for these people. I don't care for them. They're lying in shop windows. They're lying on the pavement. They cover themselves in cardboard. One of them in Charlotte Street, if you go into the ATM there's a guy on your case at 100 miles an hour who clearly, to your point, actually has got some drug-related issue. You feel threatened by it. These are dangerous people. For ordinary people,
some people, not all of them, though.
No, but it's a threatening environment, and I'm sure everybody has a bad luck story to tell.
Do you not have any sympathy at all? Because you're a parent, aren't you?
Yeah.
And when you look at some of these people, because I have, for various reasons, my past doesn't matter, but I do have a huge sympathy, actually, for people that are homeless, and I spend a lot of time trying to talk to people. I volunteered in a homeless refuge before for a period of time. Right. I've directly employed someone. I saw a young kind of boy on the street that was homeless, and it broke my heart. And I had a business at that point in time, and I employed him. I took him and said to him, you don't need to be on the street, I will give you a job. And it was challenging because he had issues with alcohol, and it was quite challenging. But long story short, the end of that is a very happy ending. He sorted himself out, and his life looks very different today.
Well, that's good.
And I do think.
Well, look, I'm grateful, and I'm sure your viewers will be grateful that there are caring and sharing out there. I don't happen to be in that area, I'm afraid. It's not. I don't wish them harm. I do not want them to be, damaging a great city or causing unease. Even if it's not violence, I don't like the atmosphere that they create. Now, what can be done about it, I don't know. I kind of buy the argument that actually saying to them, we're going to fine you, is probably absolutely ridiculous.
The tweet that Aaron mentions, today I went into a supermarket. It's one that I don't often go to, I must confess. So I've not been there for ages. Anyway, long story short, just on one layer of the car park, just one layer, there was these three separate... I don't know how to describe them. I called them almost like, they're not camps, but they're not just beds. They're like setups. There was three of them, and there's 5 different people. Anyway, I went and spoke to them. I went off to one of them. And this lady, I said to her, she said, have you got any money or whatever? I said, I ain't got money. Who's got cash these days? Anyway, I said, does she want any food? And she was so specific. I said to her, because she's definitely a woman that knows man, she wanted a southern fried chicken wrap from the hot section of the supermarket. Anyway, long story short, it was not available. So I offered her other food that she didn't then want, but she directed me to one of the other things, the tarpaulin over the stairs that you saw there. I went in there. Anyway, long story short, I spoke to the guy there. And he was using drugs, I must confess, and I saw that. And I had a long chat with him. And he was 35. He was a chef, actually. And they both told me they've got a dog. They loved their dog. And they couldn't get into a hostel because they were not willing to part with those dogs. But to your point about substance abuse, even if someone picked that guy up now and put him into a house today, right now, here's your flat, that's not going to solve a problem.
No.
Because he was, you know, from what I could see, quite a heavy drug user. Yeah. And then, you know, you've got another big problem on your hands then, because now you've got people kind of all coming into one centralised place to kind of use and share drugs. But what do you think people's attitudes to that should be? Because part of me, when I looked at the supermarket, I mean, those camp things had been there for quite some time. And I was trying to work out, was it a good thing or not?
Yeah.
Whether or not they'd not been moved on. Because part of me thought, well, it's nice that this organisation has let them stay somewhere. The other side of me then thought, but does that then encourage more people to go there? I wasn't actually sure where I was on it. Where are you on that?
It's a huge issue in the United States. So immediately following the subprime crisis, you know, millions of people, I think 10 million people lost their homes after 2008. Many of them lived in the kinds of makeshift camps you're talking about. On the one hand, it's good that you might be able to find a sense of, and these were quite normal people. You can find community, you might be able to stay safe, stay warm, eat, that's all good. But like you say, it's not a long-term solution for anybody. My view is, look, everybody deserves a second chance. Doesn't matter who you are. All of us could fall on hard times. You might lose a loved one, your child might pass away, whatever. You could gravitate towards drink, drugs, depression, etc. And I think, look, you can't help everyone. Of course you can't. But look, we've seen since 2010 alone a massive increase in homelessness in London. It's visibly different. Something has changed. All I'm saying is it can't be that hard to go back to something like before 2010. We're not saying, you know, create a car that can go 1,000 miles per hour. That was the state of affairs 14 years ago.
Well, what do you think? I mean, you're hearing different opinions here. Do you have sympathy when you see people on the streets or not? And what do you think the solution is, if indeed there even is one? Get in touch with me, all the usual ways after the